Hello neighbors, it's Brad here from eTrailer, and today we are taking a look and installing the Westin HDX brush guard on a 2025 Chevy Silverado 3500. And this is a great addition to your truck, not only for a really heavy duty look and makes it really stand out from other trucks out on the road, but also this is definitely a good way to give yourself insurance out there on the road, whether you're hot shotting, have an in-bed camper, and are really driving places far away from home like our neighbor today. He mentioned to me that if he's out in Alaska or Minnesota and hits a moose, a deer, or really anything, that's gonna cause some damage to the radiator and leave him stranded far away from home. Having a brush guard like this gives you a nice sense of security. That's not gonna be a problem anymore. And I wouldn't doubt that you could probably walk away unscathed. This is a really nice brush guard because it's custom fit to this truck. It really works well with the headlights. It's not really going to block a whole lot, and you still have this mesh up front. So that'll protect anything that wants to go through here, but still give you the airflow so you're not going to run into any overheating issues because it's blocked in front of the radiator. All the brackets really bolt up nice to factory spots, so there's no drilling required on this. It's all steel construction with a nice black powder coat finish. Now you can also get this in a chrome finish as well, so you can customize the look to your truck. And on the furthest protruding spot, you have this nice cap on it, which is, I think, a great addition because chances are if you do hit something, it's gonna mar up this area, and also just rock chips and things over time are really gonna knock down that powder coat potentially. So this is a nice addition to keep it looking sharp. Now, as far as getting this installed, it's really not that bad. It does require pulling off the front grille, the lower valance, and eventually the bumper to get everything bolted up. But you use the mounting points for where the tow hooks are from the factory for the bottom one, where you do have to trim out a small section, just get those brackets to protrude. But our upper brackets, those bolt up to bumper mounts, and there's a little bit of trimming on a plastic piece there, but really it's not too bad. I think the hardest part is finding two other people to help you raise this up in place to get the hardware and then getting it dialed in. But I think overall it's a great investment that's really going to protect your truck from any front end impacts, whether it be animals or cows, other vehicles. But at the end of the day, it really is going to protect the front of the vehicle and keep you from getting stranded. So if this is something that you've been looking at, I highly recommend it. It looks great, and the installation not being that hard, I think is worthwhile. So if you're doing this at home, I'll walk you through step by step and show you exactly how to get it mounted up. But if you watch the video and decide, you know what, I just don't have the time, the place, the tools, or even the want to do it, I totally get it. But don't let that hinder you from getting the brush guard on your truck. So if that's the case, you can find someone close to you by using our dealer locator to get this installed for you. So you can be out on the road enjoying your new brush guard. Speaking of the installation, let's take a look at that now. Now, before we begin our installation, follow along with the instructions. They're fairly decent as far as kind of giving you the basic steps, but luckily for you, I've taken off fascias on trucks just like this, and so I'll give you some of the nuances as we go along to get it off. Also, have a place to keep all your hardware that we take off. It'll make reinstallation a lot easier. And also, if you've looked ahead in the instructions, you might have noticed that if you have a 25 like we have here today, it is going to be slightly different just as far as the trim. It's going to install roughly about the same, but there is going to be two different bracket mounting templates to use. So if you're looking at this and you saw the pictures are different, not to worry, we'll get this all put in place. And the first thing that I like to do on these is your hood latch release will kind of get in the way. And so to prevent anything from getting damaged while doing this, we're going to remove this cover. So it's just two T15 Torx bits. So we'll remove these, and then we can slide this out. Now we're going to remove the plastic push pins that go along the entire edge of our support here on our grill, and you'll notice there's a slot in there, so using a trim panel tool makes this nice and easy to pry up the center, and then you should be able to get the whole thing to pop out after that. A flathead screwdriver will also work, but yeah, go around the outside edge and we should be able to pull this up and set it aside. Now we're going to be taking off the bolts that are attaching the grill onto the core support here, so a 10mm socket will get these taken off. Now we're going to go to each of our wheel well liners, and there's going to be two T15 Torx screws, so we'll get those taken out. Next step is going to get our wheel well trim popped back, and it's just going to be a series of plastic clips. And a lot of times if you just pry on it from the bottom and just keep pressure along where it has a little bit of tension, you should be able to pop these out. Now another option too is if you're fighting it a little bit, you can pull back that liner, and you can see I have my finger through there, and pinch the clip and then push it. Sometimes you can also use a small socket to just slide that over, and that'll pinch those tabs in for you. Now be careful, you don't want to pull this back too far, because if you put a crease in the plastic, it's probably going to be permanent. So all we need to do is peel this back far enough to gain access to the 7mm screw, and that way we can get this fascia taken off. So I'll get this removed, and then we're going to repeat on the other side. And something to help you out here is you can roll up some paper towels. I just have some shop rags here, and kind of wedge that back. It'll make it a lot easier. And also something you may want to do is put some painter's tape along here. It's all plastic, it shouldn't scratch, but as we pull this off and as we put it back on, it might help for a little added protection to keep anything from damaging the paint. We're going to start peeling off the fascia. So where we remove that screw, if you pull back on this tab, you'll notice I put painter's tape along here. Also a good idea to just kind of prevent any scratches from occurring. And you should be able to just pry back with your fingers. Normally these are pretty easy to start popping off. So take your time here. A lot of plastic, so we want to make sure we don't damage anything in the process. And we're going to just kind of work our way around the front here. These just kind of snap in. So as you put pressure along here, these tabs are right there. So if you needed to, you could use a plastic trim tool. Just be careful you don't scratch your paint. And as we work our way around and we get both sides like that, we should be able to slide this out. Next, we'll need to remove the 10mm screws that are horizontal. There's going to be one on each corner. Now we're going to pull our grill off. Now there are tabs up top that it just kind of pops into, so if you lift this up, it's just a small little notch there, and we're going to slowly pull back on our grill. And I recommend pulling from the center. There's going to be clips along there, so it does take a little pressure, because there's a ton of clips throughout the entire thing. So grabbing here and kind of dispersing that stress on there is going to help. So I'll get that side, and then there's clips on the bottom as well, so once you get that popped off, we can set this aside. So the clips, you're going to have ones on the headlight, here, and then any of these slots that you see, that's where those clips are located, so that's where you're going to want to put that pressure. Now we're going to begin to remove our bumper, and the first bolts that we're going to attack are going to be located in the corner. So you'll see the brace that runs from the frame. Right here is going to be a 15mm socket. So we'll get that taken off and do the same step on the other side. Now at the top of your bumper, you're going to find these bolts right on this plastic trim. It's going to be an 18mm socket to get these removed. Now we're going to remove this plastic trim. This is going to give us a little bit more room to be able to get the bolts that are below this. So just a series of clips here. So just pry up on the corner and work your way over. Now the next bolt, if you look where below that plastic trim was, there's the slight notch out here on the metal. Just go straight down, and that's going to be an 18mm socket to get that loosened up. And we're going to get ready to take our bumper off, but we do need to separate the electrical connection. I believe this to be a block heater, so if you have that, you're going to want to separate this. It's just this tab, and push that in, and you can pull this out. You may have other factory connections, depending if you have fog lamps, anything along those lines. So separate those before pulling the bumper off. And you might want an extra set of hands for this. It can be pretty heavy, but we're going to take our bumper, slide it straight out to get over the tow hooks, and then we can set it aside. Now, I looked around and kind of did some research to see if you could retain your tow hooks, and it doesn't look like that's the case, but to be completely honest, you could probably use your new bumper once it's in place, or your grill guard once it's in place as a tow hook. So we're going to get these removed, and it's going to be an 18mm socket and wrench to get this taken off. On our driver's side, working this directly, we want to grab the brackets that look like this, and they do put a D on here, so you'll know that that's the case. And also, if you haven't unwrapped them yet, they do have them in different colored bags, so good way to keep that organized. And the way that we're going to get this lined up is this outside edge. These two holes are going to go where that factory bolts were for our tow hooks. So what we'll do is get the long bolts and put a flat washer on here, and we'll pass this through, and that way it kind of holds that in place for now. And then on the other side, this is going to sandwich in place on that spot, and then this bottom part should sit nice and flush with the bottom hole. And there is a wire loom back there, just tuck that back, make sure you're not crushing it. And we'll finish up these top ones first with a flat washer, a split washer, and then a nut. And we're going to leave this loose because we're going to be doing some adjustment. So really we just want this to hold in place. And that bottom spot here is going to be our smaller bolt, flat washer again. And then finish that up with another flat washer, split washer, and a nut. Now it's time to do a little arts and crafts. So get your instructions and find the template. This is specific to the 25, so make sure that you have the proper one. Otherwise, you're going to be cutting holes that you don't need to. And it's a little interesting here, but I get the concept. So where this line is kind of flat here, that's where we're going to put this. So when you cut it out, there's an edge here. So you put that in the corner, and then we'll line this to where it's straight across this flat edge. So as I kind of push down this small gap here, you should feel right on the apex there of it. And I'm going to tape this down and kind of go around the outside edge because we're going to be cutting out this section. So once you get this taped down, get the other side in place as well, and then we can cut it out. Now I did notice as this curls over, it is kind of funky here because it'll curve down with the curvature of the grill. So we're going to do the best we can here and see what it does. Also too, this is just a good starting point, but it's very possible that we will need to trim out a little bit more just to account for variances. So, but this will get us pretty close. Now when cutting this, I'm using an oscillating tool or a multi-tool, whatever you want to call it, and this really gets nice clean lines. Now I will point out that it's not just one plastic, it's kind of dual ply, there's another piece, so as you cut, you can go all the way through, and in fact I would kind of recommend that. And you may need to go on the backside to clear out some of the rest of the flashing and also file it down. But first step, start making your cuts. So I got that outer layer, and as I mentioned, here's that bottom part. So I'm going to go on the back side and cut that off nice and clean. And then, as I mentioned, take a file, go through, make this nice and clean. Now we may need to enlarge it, so you know, you don't have to worry too terribly much. But also, this is going to be, you know, that finishing product where it is worth spending that extra time to get this nice and clean. It's just going to make that install look extra nice. So with those cut out, now's our time to slide this in place, and might want an extra set of hands here. This could be a little bit cumbersome to get it to slide through. Now we're going to grab our upper bracket, and it is going to be located or have a D on there for driver's side and passenger. Now because this covers you know, those year spans, we want to make sure on our 25 today that we have the one that's just a regular circle. The other one is slotted, so it should be at this nice little kind of cube shape here. And we're going to be using the factory bolts, so we'll get this just bolted down for now. We don't need to get too crazy here because we need to measure the distance between it so it aligns properly. and then we can get it all tightened down. So I'm gonna get both of these in place, and I'm just gonna snug it for now. Now, something I might recommend doing just to make sure everything's squared up as it should be and we're not measuring without it, being crooked, is getting those bolts that are located down here in place. And we can get those tightened down. Now, also something to do before we forget is get this electrical connection put back in place, as well as any of the other ones. Now, before we get this fully tightened down, I did snug it, and you can still move these if you put a little bit of force on them, and that's what we're looking for, because we need to measure, it says between the brackets, but also in the instructions, it's from the center to the outside edge, but we're looking for 42.25. And as long as it's pretty close, I think as we put in the front, brush guard, we can tighten that down and it'll draw it back in, but we want to get it at least as close as possible. So I'm gonna go from the inside, so 42, and we're just gonna kind of make sure that it's even looking on both edges. Once we're happy with the measurement, we're gonna torque down our hardware, so really just try to make sure it doesn't move on you. And once we get these torqued down, we can also get those lower bolts. That way we have the bumper mounted up nice and tight. As far as torque wrench, we do have them here at eTrailer, but you can always go to an auto parts store and rent one for free. But this will ensure that our hardware is going to be tight enough that everything's going to be nice and solid, but also not too tight, putting stress on the hardware. Now, don't be like me and forget to put the plastic trim on before doing this. You can't really slide it back in. And you are going to need to modify this just slightly to account for the bracket. So I'll loosen these back up and redo our steps on our brackets and our bolts here. But I'll get this in place, and then I'll show you how I end up trimming it out. So for the trimming of the plastic, I just kind of followed a straight edge where it's normally curved. And I just left a small sliver here, but it's all still one piece. And so once you get that cut out, I would recommend taking that bracket and just kind of lining it up, make sure that you don't have any clearance issues, but I think that's going to work out just perfect. Now we can get our grill and our filler panel put back in the reverse order that we took it off, and we'll get all of our hardware put back in place. Now at this point, you may need 3 people or 2, including yourself. And what we're going to do is align those bottom holes with our brackets. Now, as far as the hardware, get the larger diameter button head bolts and put the washer on. That should face this way. And we're going to be passing it from the outside in. So have your serrated flange nut ready to go. And if you can get 2 of them on the bottom, that should keep it in place. And then if you can get all 3 started, you're going to be looking really good. Now for your top one, we're going to grab the smaller bolt, same combo with that flat washer, and we'll feed this up and get this in place as well. Now, we're going to be doing some adjustment, and ours naturally wants to lean towards the truck, and I want to make sure it's not rubbing against it. So I just took a shop towel and rolled that up, same one I used on the fender trim, and just put this in place and taped it on. So now it's time to go back to all of our hardware and torque it down properly. I'd probably recommend starting at the bottom bolts that go around the frame. They are slotted, so a lot of this is going to come down to some adjustment. Between all the slotted holes, we can really adjust the pitch. And you can dial it in exactly how you want. You want to make sure it's not rubbing on anything, but also not sticking out too far. So it's really up to you on getting that dialed in. Now all these bolts, you do get Allen wrenches included, so you can get all that tightened down. And something I'll point out, I didn't know if these were going to cause an issue, but I was able to get our tow hooks in, so I just passed those bolts through. So if you're watching this all the way through before starting your install, you can leave your tow hooks. So I'll get everything torqued down, make sure it's nice and aligned. Beyond that, that's going to do it for the installation. Now hopefully this video helped you get your brush guard installed on your truck, and if there's anything that I missed or that I could have done better throughout the video, or even if it was helpful, feel free to leave a comment and take some pictures along with your installation and share them with us. That really helps us make the videos as best as possible for neighbors like you at home that are going to be tackling this on your own. My name's Brad, and this was a look and installation of the Westin HDX brush guard.